Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a video and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome a very accomplished professional turned entrepreneur, Mr. Achin Bhattacharya, to the show. Achin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thanks for having me here.
Achin is the CEO and founder of Notebook, which is a mobile-first digital learning product. He has also worked with Deloitte, KPMG, GE, and PwC. So, Achin, tell me, what would you say are three key milestones in your career or your life?
First of all, I think a very insightful question. I must compliment you for this because I believe that for any of us, where we are, is nothing but a summation of our experience and decisions that we have taken in life. Mm-hmm. So, three key milestones in my career. Now, first and foremost, when I was in first year of college, I was doing my graduation. Mm-hmm. So, that point of time, my father took a decision. He wanted that I should fund my own education. So, I started giving tuitions, and that continued till the time I completed my chartered accountancy.
Okay.
That really helped me. That helped me in the sense that those initial formative years of teaching, that made me understand that it's not only about what you are teaching, but it's about how you are teaching. Mm-hmm. In life, I believe in any profession, it's very important to be able to communicate your thought process to the other person. Mm-hmm. It really doesn't matter how much I know. What really matters is how much benefit the other person is getting from me, mm-hmm. right? So I believe being a good storyteller is at the core of success, be it any profession, be it a doctor, be it a professional, be it an entrepreneur. So those initial years, and when I started off, I was very surprised that within a very short span of time, I was getting very good response. And I guess it was more with regard to being able to communicate. So that really helped. That was the first key milestone, I would say. Second, after completing my chartered accountancy, when I started my career, initial years, I was with GE. But then when I moved back to India and I joined PricewaterhouseCoopers, so I joined a stream called transfer pricing, as you are aware, which is relatively new. It really gave me an edge because transfer pricing is all about being able to find out arm's length price, meaning to say being able to find out the correct price with regard to transactions between related entities. Mm-hmm. It was a subject which gave me insight into economics, financials, as well as business understanding. I got to meet a lot of entrepreneurs across industry verticals. I know about their stories, know about the kind of functions that they perform, the kind of risks they undertake, the kind of assets they employ. That gave me a huge boost. Even now, I'll say that has been my greatest learning. And third milestone is a very personal one, very close to my heart. When I became a father. Mm-hmm. So I have twin sons in 2017, and that was exactly the time when I took the plunge and I started my entrepreneurial journey. Okay. So it really changed my worldview. It made me far more responsible. I guess, I'm sure that happens to any parent. So I guess these are three milestones.
Wonderful, thank you. So let's now move to Notebook. Tell me about this venture.
In 2017, when I moved out of Deloitte, I was a director of Deloitte. When I moved out of Deloitte in 2017, for one full year, I traveled to more than 100 districts across the length and breadth of the country. Mm-hmm. So I was very sure that I wanted to do something in the social sector. I wanted to do something which is meaningful, which really impacts a large number of people. And nothing better than school education can really make an impact at the ground level, right? I always believe that education is at the core of trying to solve any problem, be it underemployment, unemployment, better political discourse, etc. So when I started this journey, during my travel, I met up with parents, students, teachers, and I was trying to understand where the need gap lies. Mm-hmm. Because it was not about trying to ape somebody, not trying to build a Me Too brand, but really to find out that what the need is and where can we actually add value. Mm-hmm. So that was step one. In 2018, when we started off, we in this journey. So in Notebook, basically, what we do is we create short, engaging videos for school children. For all classes, all subjects. So as of now, we cater to CBSE, ICSE, and various state boards like Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, and various other state boards are in the pipeline. These videos are short engaging videos, 6 to 8 minutes, because more than that, keeping attention of a child becomes very difficult. Over last 2.5 years, we have been able to create around 10,000 videos. Today, we have an active user base of more than 17.5 lakh students. We are working very closely with more than 1,000 schools. And what makes me really happy is that in the student base, more than 60% comes from non-metros. Many of them are first generation learners from aspirational districts as well. More than 250 professionals are involved with me in this journey, including senior teachers, IT professionals, artists. Our videos, we give a lot of emphasis on art and culture in our videos. So this has been our journey now.
Okay. And as far as education is concerned, it is a state subject. And yet there are digital platforms that are now beginning to, cover the entire country. So in your opinion, are these digital platforms like yours bringing a level of standardization into education?
A very interesting question. So education, as we are aware, is in the concurrent list as per 42nd Amendment of the Constitution in 1976. So what happens basically, first of all, when it comes to standardization, barring subjects like vernacular literature or might be local history or local geography, education is a fairly standardized subject, not only across states, but even if you look at things at a national level, right? If you're teaching somebody algebra, be it Mandarin or Spanish or Hindi, beyond a point it can't differ. So there's a fair bit of standardization which is inherent in this as a subject. But then personally I believe that it is really important to be relevant. Like for example, when we are trying to connect with students across length and breadth of the country, it's not only about language. The issue of language has been very aptly addressed by the new education policy 2020.
Correct.
Which encourages teaching in vernacular language. But it's also about relevance and sensibility. Being able to connect in a sensibility, being able to connect, being able to be relevant to children across. So I believe a degree of localization is really important. It's not necessary to try and standardize everything. It's really important that local communities preserve their true identity, preserve their local history, preserve their culture. That is the beauty of this nation.
Okay.
Unity in diversity.
Understand. And there are now several players, and you're also getting to be one of the bigger people. How are you different from some of the other platforms?
Yeah. So I think this was the question, Ashutosh, which exactly we were asking ourselves when we started our journey. That what can we bring to the table? Honestly speaking, as you rightly mentioned, EdTech has been around for more than a decade now in India, and our difference lies in few basic, aspects that we always laid emphasis on. To start with, we have involved the academic community in a way in which none of our peers have been able to.
Okay.
Like meaning to say, when we started this journey, everybody whom I knew, all my well-wishers, friend, family, relative, peers, everybody told me that teachers are going to be your biggest resistance because they fear replacement. I'm being very honest and candid with you.
Sure.
Our experience has been exactly the opposite.
Okay.
Teachers have been our biggest source of support because when we reached out to them, we were very sure about one thing, that schooling is irreplaceable. No EdTech brand in the world can replace schooling, right? Schools are miniature version of the society. Schools are a much larger load. It's not only about academics, about overall development, extracurriculars, etc. So, for instance, during this lockdown, when we started off, we reached out to teachers and we told them that I understand that you're trying to create digital content. So why don't you give us a chance? We already have digital content which is mapped to your syllabus, and why don't you invest your time in more meaningful, engaging discussions, which only you can do, which we cannot, right? So, involving the academic community has been a very, very big difference. Second, another very basic, very important difference that we believe in. I believe education is too important a subject to aggressively oversell. It's not about making 5 phone calls to you when you're busy during the day and trying to sell your product. The product has to sell itself. The objective of any marketing activity has to be brand awareness. So, the way we have tried to market our product, the way we have tried to spread this awareness is a very different kind of initiative. Rather than going for extensive print or digital campaign, what we have initiated is meaningful, engaging conversations. Like meaning to say, every week, we hold Together for Education webinars, 2 webinars every week. And each of these webinars, on an average, witnessed more than 500 attendees.
I see.
And most of them are school principals, senior academicians, social workers. So it was very, very relevant and engaging audience.
Okay.
We also hosted Zero Hour, India's first online debate with more than 64 schools. So these kind of initiatives really helped us to get our own fan following, people who really support and love the brand. The brand belongs to them. I believe any successful brand, more than customers, should have fans, people who like the brand, people who love the brand. So these have been a few key differences.
Very, very interesting. And when I was reading about you, I read that you're focusing more on rural India and a lot of the rural communities in our country. My question to you is that how do you handle the last mile connectivity to the schools and to the students?
Ashutosh, I believe that, rural areas, because we work very closely with them, I can tell this to you with confidence and conviction that so much of need, so much of hunger lies there. I think as a civil society, it's our responsibility to ensure that children across all layers of the pyramid, they get equal opportunity in terms of quality educational access. Coming to last mile connectivity, internet penetration in India has grown by leaps and bounds, all thanks to telecom players, as you're aware.
Yes.
Data prices that we have are among the cheapest in the world. Smartphone penetration, contrary to popular perception, is very high. And I'm not talking about a fancy smartphone. I'm not talking about an iPhone or a very fancy Android device. I'm talking about basic smartphone. Any handheld device with a screen and connected to the internet.
Correct.
So I guess that was with regard to the connectivity part. Now, there's another very important part. You will take effort to avail something only when you see value in it. It's about it. So I believe the job of any edtech brand, our responsibility is to ensure we communicate and we deliver that value.
Correct.
And not only in letter but also in spirit. So I guess the relevance factor comes there, and that is where our role comes in. We try and ensure that we are relevant to people whom we are trying to engage with. We try to speak in a language and sensibility that they are comfortable and familiar with. That has helped. Also, what has helped is we have very actively worked and tied up with various NGOs and players in the social sector. So players like Pratham, Save the Children, Aflatun, Akshay Patra, they have been kind enough to help us in various ways. Be it coming to our webinars, trying to address the audience, trying to spread the good word around. So these have helped actually.
Okay. And now moving on, you have said that you would like to make learning more inclusive. Now, literacy in our country has moved from 50% to over 80%. My question to you is that what is India doing right and what can be done to improve this?
I guess there's no denying the fact that a lot of good work has happened in this sector. We cannot deny this fact. Be it Right to Education Act, be it the new education policy, which is very forward-looking. The intent is, of course, in place. When it comes to implementation, as you coming to the second part of your question, that what more can be done, right? I guess it is really important that when it comes to implementing a policy, all stakeholders, it's not about only drawing room conversations and trying to blame the government. I guess all stakeholders have equal responsibility, be it parents, children, social workers, media, to come forward and ensure that the policy is actually implemented. I guess another very important aspect when it comes to delivering quality education, because being literate and being educated, as you are well aware, there's a huge gap, right, between these two. So, and it's our responsibility to build an educated nation, build a strong nation. We are moving towards a knowledge economy. So, from service sector, we are moving to knowledge sector. So, to ensure that, I believe it is really important that centralized content should be built, quality centralized content should be built, stored in clouds, and delivered to children through simple handheld devices. Without PPP model, without public-private partnership, this is virtually impossible. I'm being very honest and candid with you. If we really want to ensure that everyone is equally benefited, when I say everyone, I mean literally everyone, right? The new education policy has taken a step in this direction and rightly addressed the problem by saying that areas where connectivity is a challenge, areas where device is a challenge, mediums like television and radio can also be used, mass media, etc. So I believe these are some steps.
Okay. Now, a next question to you, Achin, is that, tuition has become almost like a part of every child's life. That's what I know. I'm not in education, but that's what I read about. Everyone seems to have a tutor. So, are you at Notebook also fulfilling this need?
I'll put it slightly differently. So first of all, to answer the first part of your question, you are completely right. Nowhere else in the world this parallel system of schooling exists to this magnitude. First of all, I acknowledge the issue. But second is, if anything exists perpetually, right? We cannot deny the fact that it must be fulfilling a particular need. There's no denying that fact. We live with it, right? And given the kind of competition that we witness, be it for seats in premium colleges, be it for jobs, so we understand that the kind of competition that children go through, there's a role of private coaching institute, there's a role of tuitions. Having said that, I don't look at it that way. So it's about educating a child, whether in school or out of school. As I told you, schools will always exist. There's no question of replacing the school. And again, I'll tell you, even if you come to tuition, whether it is tuition or at school, human instructors will always have a role, because there's also emotional quotient to it. A friendly pat on the back, encouraging a child, has its own value that any kind of artificial intelligence cannot do, if I'm being very honest and candid with you. Having said that, there are some fundamental challenges that we need to acknowledge. First of all, giving quality teachers in each and every school across the length and breadth of the country is virtually impossible. If you look at PTR ratios, pupil-teacher ratios in India, and compare them to other developed nations, if you look at findings of PISA survey or Pratham ASA survey, the writing is clear on the wall. There's a huge need gap, because see, teachers are human, just like any other profession. Any good teacher, I'm not saying all, but most of them, will have an inclination towards settling in more urban areas. They also have a family.
Sure.
They want to raise their kids, they want to ensure that they get access to better facilities. But what happens to children in rural areas? What happens to these people in far-flung districts? If we really need to ensure that they also get equal access and opportunity, I guess online education has a huge role to play in this. And I guess that is where we come from.
Fair enough. So my next question to you, or I think this will probably be my last question on business before I move to the next segment, is, education is directly dependent on trust, right? A lot of people have knowledge, but as you said, there's a difference between knowledge and literacy, or education and literacy. What are the core values you believe in, Achin, for Notebook?
I guess, we really believe in two very important core values, I'll say. First and foremost, inclusion. Inclusion stands, I'll say inclusion is a pillar based on which we are trying to build a brand.
Okay.
Be it inclusion across socio-economic layers, be it inclusion of the academic community, who are our strongest patrons, be it inclusion of parents. We actively hear from them, we seek feedback, even for first generation learners. So I guess inclusion has a huge role to play, be it inclusion of government, as a stakeholder. So I guess inclusion is one of our core values, be it inclusion of our employees. I'll say they are completely aligned to the purpose. It's very important, very close to my heart. So I guess inclusion, first and foremost. Second is respect. I think respect is at our core. So when I say respect, I mean respect for the existing status quo. Instead of trying to criticize something blindly, trying to understand because see, it happens to all of us. When we start our careers, we start from a point of idealism. As we move forward, we reach a point of realism. And that's the journey for any professional, right? So I guess inclusion and respect, these are the two core values.
Okay, interesting. So now let me move to the next segment of our conversation, which is some questions for you personally. My first question is, Achin, a successful corporate career with the top consulting firms in the country, became an entrepreneur, have built an amazing organization which is doing very well, with some great opportunities coming up in the future. My question is, what does success mean to you?
Yes, success to me means making a larger impact. So, every person has a story to tell in this world. I guess the way I look at my story, what matters to me most is, am I really making an impact to the man on the street? Am I really adding value to him? I might have a fancy job, I might be having a corner office, wearing the best suit in town or driving a great car. But does my work really mean something to him? Does he understand what am I doing? Do I really add value? So to me, when I measure my success, it's about how big an impact am I being able to make. When I say big an impact, not only in terms of my balance sheet size, but more so with regard to how many lives I'm being able to touch in the course of my journey.
Well said. And therefore, the follow-up question to that is that, you've got a large team of people talking to so many children, and you've got to keep on doing newer and newer things. Where do you draw your inspiration from?
So I really draw my inspiration from a single word called excellence.
Okay.
And when I say excellence, be it any walk of life, Whenever I read or hear about anyone, I read a lot. Say, I'm very much interested in political autobiographies. I read about history. I read about literature. History is very close to my heart. So I believe this one single word called excellence. For instance, very recently, in our weekly webinars, we had a singer from Bollywood. She's doing very well. Nikita Gandhi. She had come to our show, and during the course of discussion, she told us that when she was trying to get her first break, she was working very closely with A.R. Rahman sir. And she told us that Rahman sir always records his songs at the middle of the night, somewhere around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And she was telling us that when we continuously rehearse, we don't even know which one is the final take. So that's the passion for excellence.
Okay.
That's the finesse for excellence. And I'm just giving you one example. It can be anything. It can be a great chef who is very passionate about his dish. It can be a great author. I have read your books, and I must compliment you for that. Great show. So I guess passion for excellence is something which is very close to my heart. Wonderful. And I draw my inspiration from that.
Wonderful. So I think I have time for 2 more questions for you. My next question is that if you, Achin, were a role model to millions of children, and I'm sure you are, given the number of 17.5 lakh students you have enrolled, and these children look at you, closely followed your own life choices. As you introspect, what is the one thing you would change in yourself?
So I'll put it slightly differently. So I think it's really important. 2 things are really important to me, and which I really want young children to imbibe, and I'm sure it will help them a lot. First and foremost, I think it's really important to be comfortable with yourself. It's really important, Any dress is good if you know how to carry it. It's really important to be comfortable with yourself. And I tell you, we are a generation which was not, we were not, born into Facebook and Google generation. We are not that generation, right? So it took us a little time. So as I was telling you, I'm very comfortable with subjects like history, literature. But when I pursued my academics, I had taken up finance as a career. Like, I'm an accountant by training, as you said, as I mentioned. So I guess being comfortable with oneself is really important. Second thing which we look at in hindsight, and which I think is very important, is people whom you interact with on a day-to-day basis. It's really important that, because see, frictions do happen. It happens in all of us. Like, conflicts do happen. It's the reality of life, right? I think it's really important to sometimes take a deep breath, analyze, and then decide.
Okay.
And not decide at the heat of the moment. I guess these are 2 key learnings, and not only, it's not about your personal failure, but I guess these 2 are really important.
Wonderful.
Keeping your composure and being comfortable as you are.
Terrific. Achin, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you. I wish Notebook and everything that you are doing lots of success.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thanks for your time. It has really been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.